hype you up, so I made sure I had everyone else watch that as well.
Which one hyped me up?
What's her name?
Suzanne Quest, is it?
Yeah.
The what?
Susan
Quest.
Oh,
like
right.
It's like a 25-minute.
Yeah, that was a long one.
Yeah.
That set was so hot. I remember that. I was wearing a suit because I was speaking for Warner Brothers. And then I joined that thing, and like there were so many lights, and basically that cup that I had was just ice, and so I was just holding like ice, just drinking melting ice. But I was like, holy crap! But yeah, I get hot so easily.
I feel that.
Yeah, I've gone on runs and just carried a frozen water bottle, and then as it melts, it's just like this needs to melt faster.
Yeah, exactly. What are you drinking there, Tyler?
Water.
Ooh, what's
water.
Well, how's the flavor and like any sensations in parts of your palate and whatnot?
The effervescence of water.
Any aromas?
Whole lot. Actually, let me get a sniff. Whole lot of nothing. Yeah, absolutely
just
nothing.
Just fluoride.
Fluoride and lead.
A lot of minerals.
Nice.
Well, water. We don't have anything else in Ohio.
I'm gonna fill up my coffee before we get started. Is that okay?
Go for it.
Absolutely.
Go for it.
What if we just said no?
Well, there's this week's podcast gone.
Yeah, no, asshole.
What are you drinking, Chris?
Cereal.
Cereal.
I was gonna drink wheat water. Fuck.
I wonder if I have another Penn's Best.
Oh god.
Penn's Best is better, Ian. Penn's Best is better.
Oh, I got some cool mocks.
Yeah, how about us not even reviewing those yet, Chris?
I love how he has a fridge in his room.
I reviewed one of them.
Same. I know. I'm saying like the rest of them. Like we both haven't. No, I did too. I reviewed two of them.
That's because it's so hard to come up with enough good things to say about them. We're recording right now, by the way.
Oh my.
Because I have no shame.
Let's just jump. Let's just levitate on into it and
Let's dive right into it tonight.
Let us osmosis our way through this.
let's give it a dive right on in.
Jumping right into it. Why don't you just tell us about yourself?
I love how we shit on him though, Ian, but like he's so much better than what we would do.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Like
if we didn't have Chris, we'd be...
Joel, are you hearing this for the record that they're saying even though they shit on me so much, they acknowledge I'm better than them? Can I get a third-party impartial verification of this?
Yeah, I feel like you should be recording them saying this. I mean,
I am.
Oh, yeah.
how do you shit on somebody and then say that they're better than you?
I think it's just an ego booster. You gotta just knock someone down and then build them up.
Lonely at the top.
We should really talk about your mental health, Tyler.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
For once, I'm not the topic of that conversation.
I'll just have the whole interview just about my issues, and that's just how we'll go.
Yeah. Speaking of issues, did you take the Pikachu down? Oh, thank God.
You after you brought it up, I'm like, okay, it is time. It is time, Tyler. I still have it though. It's just in the corner.
Yeah, as soon as this podcast is over, it's going straight back up.
Yep.
Straight back up.
The Pikachu bed sheets are going to go back on the bed too.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I have baseball bed sheets. Calm that down.
Mark McGuire.
No, I'm not a huge steroids guy.
So funny. All right, let's do it.
Yes.
Yes, let's go.
So just a quick little intro. Welcome back to everyone on the podcast. We are very appreciative that you have decided to come back for one more episode. This is going to be a great episode. This week we are joined by the incredibly inspiring Joel Ralempagos. Did I butcher that?
You got it right. Yeah.
Joel is a Hollywood producer who has worked on a number of well-known projects like Pimp My Ride and more recently than that, Boy Band. He's here to share his incredible story about kind of developing his career, developing who he is as a person, his identity, through this insane world that we live in. And I hope that we get into your travel stories as well,
100%.
about literally going around this mad world. So without any further ado, I want to turn everything over to you and give a better introduction than I did by completely butchering everything. So fill in everything that I missed, and we'll get started.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, guys. It really is an honor. Much appreciated. Yeah, so a little bit about me. I was actually supposed to be a doctor when I was going to UCLA, and then I quickly realized how much I do not like the sight of blood. During this time, I also wanted to come out of the closet in a way where I would let people know how difficult it was, and how there was nothing wrong with you if you were, in the shoes that I was in. And so I thought that it was fate when I saw that MTV was casting for a show called True Life I'm Coming Out. I sent them my story about how I grew up in a strict Catholic Filipino home. They loved it. They said they were going to film with me. And so they filmed with me, in which point I came out on national television to my family and friends in front of cameras. And when I did that, that was when people that saw the show came up to me and said, "Oh, you changed my life," or "You saved my life." And I remember wanting to be a doctor because I wanted to save lives, but that's when it hit me that there's more than one way to save a life, and you can actually save lives through the power of storytelling, which is what you guys are doing. And so I quickly switched from medicine to working in film and television, and I haven't left television since. So since then, I executive produced The Biggest Loser. I've been with them for over 10 years. I executive produced a show with Ashton Kutcher about the $1.5 trillion student loan debt. And now I'm working on a bunch of other projects, some fun TV shows that are soon to be announced, as well as doing a mental wellness program, which, in complete honesty, is totally new for me. But hey, I'm up for the challenge.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
Hey, can you describe how you went from just going on MTV to then becoming an executive producer? Like, did you have to go and work on a set first? How does that process work?
Yeah, so basically my very first job was I was a production assistant on the Grammys. So to go from not seeing any celebrities in person ever to seeing all of the celebrities in one spot, I was like, oh my gosh, I have the best job in the world. Meanwhile, I'm really just taking out the trash and getting coffee for everybody. But I'm like, this is the best job in the world, for a 21-year-old. And then I quickly moved up from there, and then they made me an associate producer, at which point I followed Paris Hilton around with a camera for months. And so that was a really fun / interesting job. And then after that, I moved up to becoming an associate producer for Pimp My Ride, which was such a blast because I've always had a love for cars. And, just turning these like piece of crap vehicles into wacky contraptions with 4 wheels. So that was definitely a fun job. And then eventually I left MTV to go to NBC, where I became an official producer. And then from there, I produced Hell's Kitchen with Gordon Ramsay on Fox, and then eventually fell in love and settled down. It's like I'm talking about a relationship. And eventually fell in love with NBC's The Biggest Loser, where I ended up staying there for 10 years, and that was when I became an executive producer.
That's insane.
Wow.
Yeah, so definitely paid my dues, hard work, but I think that a lot of it was just, visualizing that I wanted to be an executive producer one day. My goal was to become an executive producer by the age of 30. So I spent a lot of my 20s just super goal oriented and, working towards reaching that goal by that age.
For being, Chris, you want to go?
I was just going to say, that's awesome. And you mentioned that it's kind of seems like a relationship. You're talking about falling in love with it. And I think it really is. If you're doing your career that you love and you really want to go after, just like a relationship, you have to put in the work. There's going to be crappy days. There's going to be times where it's, why am I doing this at all?
Right.
But then it's all for those positive, like, you get that breakthrough, you get the job, you get the deal, everything goes right and everything comes together. So I absolutely think it's work and all that stuff is exactly like a relationship. I think that's a great analogy for it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's why, I try to encourage people, especially, teenagers or people in their early 20s, where it's like, definitely do something that you love doing. Because I know a lot of people that make bank, but they hate their jobs, like they're miserable. But it really all starts at the time when you're actually looking for your job and you're like, all right, is this like a relationship? Is this the one that I'm going to marry? Because eventually when you do get married, it could be a happy marriage or it could be a miserable marriage. So by actually dating, I love that we're really using this, really going for it.
Yeah, we're really
awful.
So if you're really going to be dating something or if you're going to be dating your job, you got to really make sure that you're into it and you like it and that you can picture at least, 5 years of your life in it, making sure that you're growing and expanding and whatnot. Otherwise, you're not going to be happy, and being happy with your job is a huge part of being fulfilled.
How was it being an openly gay executive producer in the industry? Did you ever have times like negative interactions with others, or was it just accepted?
It's a great question. So I was fortunate enough where I got my job in entertainment because I came out on national television. So people knew from the get-go exactly what my story was. I was the guy at MTV that came out on national television. So there was no question about me being a minority, me being, gay and whatnot. And the fact that I live in LA where there's much more diversity involved, made it that much more accepting, which was really cool. And, sadly, there's lots of parts of the world where lots of types of people aren't accepted. But growing up in LA, I didn't experience any pushback, to who I was as a person.
That's insane. And then you never even expected that either, of you just coming out, and then all this just manifested from that.
Yeah, and it was something that was, scary AF to do, because I was like, oh my gosh. So that was when I learned that anything that's uncomfortable, you still feel it's right, but if it feels uncomfortable, then lean into it. And then giant things will actually come out of it. Because there was no way in heck that I would have planned out that I would eventually become an executive producer just a few years after doing that. But because I leaned towards the discomfort and I actually accepted my own truth and was able to tell people about my own truth so that they can help themselves, and giant rewards just like fell from the sky.
Yeah.
What was your favorite show you produced? Was it The Biggest Loser? Or?
Yeah, I would say my favorite show that I produced was definitely The Biggest Loser. I like The Biggest Loser, not just because it was, a weight loss show, but because it was a metaphor for being able to attain the things that you've always wanted in your life, especially things that you thought were impossible to attain. Like, here were people that were 300, 400, sometimes even 500 pounds, and never in their wildest dreams did they think that they would be losing, close to 40 to 50% of their body weight. And then the prize was so real because it wasn't one of those shows where it's like, you get a check, you get a ton of money. The prize was yet years of your life back. These were people that were literally dying, and, now they were healthy enough to walk their daughter down the aisle on their wedding day, or they were living long enough where they can actually go to a booth in a restaurant where they can fit, or they can go on a roller coaster where they can fit with their kid who's always wanted to go to an amusement park, but they never did because of that person's size. So it was really a rewarding show.
Wow.
And it was never about the weight loss. It was just about the human condition and the power of our will. If we really want something, we can have it.
And can I ask, what was Pimp My Ride like?
Yeah, so Pimp My Ride involved a lot of, secondhand highs. Working with Exhibit was awesome. And, it was a really, really cool experience because you got to take these vehicles that were no longer working, barely working. They were on their last tire, if you will. And then all of a sudden
literally.
Yeah, literally. As producers, we get to sit down and go, okay, this person is a snowboarder. What can we do with this Suburban? And then to be honest, the ideas were not everyday ideas. It was like, oh, let's put a snowmaker in his trunk, which shoots out snow. And then a random one was this guy who worked in Vegas, but he'd drive from LA to Vegas all the time, and he had this really old, creepy van. And so we painted the van in gold. And we turned the sliding door into a slot machine. And then the carpet was like a craps table. So it was honestly like a job it was an adult job for a kid, because, you know, as kids, you just basically come up with like random stuff and then see what comes out of it and to make your ideas become concrete. And that was probably the best part of the job, is that you were getting paid to be a kid.
It's amazing. Can you explain the bridge between being an executive producer and then becoming a mental health advocate? And kind of
absolutely. So being an executive producer, you're basically running a business. And then in terms of executive producing, your business is the television show. So you're running it from the ground up, from hiring assistants all the way to the contestants, the camera guys, what's going to be filmed for each episode, how many episodes, and where it's going to air. And so you're basically managing everything and making sure that your concept becomes concrete, as I've talked about. And then, so that was my job, was basically, I liked the idea that I could control what the product would look like. And what was different transitioning from television to mental health is that you can't control everything when it comes to what's happening outside of your world. You can control your mind and how you respond to your thoughts. But where I got myself in trouble was that I felt like I could executive produce the exterior of my life. You know, I was looking outwards versus inwards. And so now running a mental wellness program, it's really rewarding to actually teach people that it all starts with the mind. Don't look for happiness outside of yourself. Don't think that, you know, finding your soulmate is going to be the one thing that's going to complete your life, or finding that job is going to make everything perfect and just get a lot of money in your bank account, because that's what success means, and success means happiness forever. A lot of it really just starts in here, and it's rewarding actually talking to these people and then having them go, oh, I see. So if I stop thinking that I'm an angry person, I'll stop responding to the world in an angry way, you know, because I think that a lot of us, I was certainly guilty of it, don't want to sit with our thoughts. It's really uncomfortable. A lot of us don't want to face our past. It's really uncomfortable. But if you actually take the moment, it's just like a speck of your life to actually sit down and go, all right, who am I? What do I need to work on? How can I become a better version of myself? Then that can go a really, really long way. You can spend the rest of your life being unhappy with a lot of things, or you can sit down, be unhappy with yourself, then figure out how you can be happy, and then spend the rest of your life being happy about a lot of things. So that's really my take with the mental wellness program.
And how does one start that process?
Sorry, what process?
As in, like, learning your mind and learning what your definition of success is. Just asking those questions and just sitting down, forcing yourself to sit down and just think, okay, like, what do I like to do? What makes me happy? And just kind of go through just asking yourself questions, and then just act upon those questions until you just randomly become happy. Like, how does that really manifest for someone?
That's a great question. So I've talked a lot about how, you know, I spent a lot of my 20s and early 30s crushing a career and just making sure that I found success in my career, but I didn't really spend time on myself. So I was certainly a workaholic. So while I was succeeding on paper, I was not succeeding in a personal level. I felt very unhappy with myself. I still had feelings of unworthiness. And while this was all happening, I was coming home and drinking 2 bottles of wine a night. I became a what you call functional drunk, where I would get totally drunk, wake up with a hangover, and then just brush it off, go to work, and then, you know, lather, rinse, repeat, all that stuff. Or is it rinse, lather, repeat? Who cares? But basically, that was a pattern for me. And then eventually, I started drinking even more, and I was like, what is going on? And so I actually admitted myself into a rehabilitation facility. I took a step back from entertainment, decided to dedicate 50 days to just focus on myself versus work, family, friends, my house, car, whatnot. I was just like, let me spend 50 days with myself. And I had a team of therapists that were working with me, and it was the best 50 days ever because I felt like it was a university about me. It was like Joel University. And each class was about different parts of my mind. And it was so awesome. And I was shocked that it was something that I hadn't done before. And what I learned was that we all have negative beliefs in our subconscious mind. The misconception is that we can only function off of the 10% brain power of our mind, which is the consciousness of our mind. But the 90% brain power, which is our subconscious, holds all of our beliefs from when we were a kid all the way up to now. Beliefs from, I'm really creative, all the way to beliefs of I am unworthy of other people's acceptance and attention. And this can happen, in small traumas, in big traumas. Like anybody, I've had small traumas in the past that made me feel like I wasn't accepted, i.e., I'm an immigrant. I moved to the U.S. from the Philippines when I was 6, so didn't really feel accepted. Growing up gay in a strict Catholic Filipino home, didn't really feel accepted. So I developed these beliefs about myself that no one's going to accept me, which manifested as me overcompensating in my work, because at work, people were high-fiving me, yay, great job, and I felt accepted. But at the end of the day, I wasn't accepting myself, which is why I was turning to alcohol. And so to answer your question, Tyler, what I like to do is I like to take the negative beliefs that I have of myself. And when it comes to negative beliefs, we only really just focus on that, right? Where it's like, oh, I suck. I'm an idiot. I'm a loser. I screwed this up. I made that mistake. And you build guilt and shame. I like to take those negative beliefs and then create affirmations that will cancel those negative beliefs out. For example, if you think that you are an ugly person, your new affirmation is, I am beautiful, or I'm good looking. You're not going to believe it because you've convinced yourself for years and years that you're an ugly person. And so what you do is you literally write down in meticulous detail why you are a good looking, beautiful person inside and out. And then when you run out of reasons why, you turn to what other people have said about you being a good looking person, whether you're charming or you have nice eyes or you have good hair. And then you list it out and then you read it over and over until you have reprogrammed your brain to believe that you are in fact a good looking person, because beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? And so when somebody feels like they're ugly, and a lot of people do, body dysmorphia and whatnot, their brain was brainwashed to think that they're an ugly person, so you have to brainwash yourself back to your default setting, because no one was born thinking that they're a miserable person. You gain these negative traits and false beliefs as you grow up. And so that's why the program, my mental wellness program, is called Change Your Algorithm, because we all abide by the algorithm when it comes to social media and tech. And a lot of people feel like they're always going to live a life of depression or always going to live a life of anxiety. But if you actually change what's going on here subconsciously, that's when your life will change. The algorithm of your life, if you will.
Basically, like you fake it at first, and then that fakeness turns into true belief. It's kind of like Santa Claus type of thinking. Like if you really think Santa Claus is real,
wait, he's not.
As a kid, he's real.
What do you mean? He's not real?
No, I didn't say he was. That was my proof. That's what I'm trying to say. Like some people might honestly think he's real based upon their belief. It's the whole like.
And I wouldn't.
It's more of a
I wouldn't even say faking it, because the mental vocabulary that you have in your mind is also key. I would say investigating it. So investigating why Santa is real, if you will. And investigating why you might actually be a good person, or investigating why you actually deserve good things in your life. Versus if you tell yourself you're faking it, you're back to that negative belief.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? It's like, I'm faking it that I'm not fat. I'm faking it that I'm not, you know what I mean? It's just like you're already in that negative space. And that's why I don't even like to use the word challenge. I like to use the word opportunity. You know, like now that I'm sober, I'm not challenged to be sober. I have an opportunity to have a brand new life, you know? So the dialogue and the words that you choose mentally, like, is a game changer.
Joel, if you could give your younger self, sorry, Tyler, were you going to talk?
No, I was asking if anyone had any questions that I could probably hammer off.
If you could give your younger self, like say your 16-year-old self or 18-year-old self, one piece of advice, what would it be?
Say that again?
If you could give like your 16-year-old self or your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, great question. If I were to give my younger self a piece of advice, it would be the fact that you are awesome. And that you are the only thing that you need in your life to believe that you are awesome. Because I spent a lot of my life trying to have other people convince me that I'm awesome, you know, because truthfully, there's nobody in this world that likes to think that, yeah, that I'm not awesome. You know, like everyone wants to feel awesome. It's a Lego song. Everything is awesome. Like we all like, you know, want to feel awesome. And I think that when we grow up, it's those moments where we feel like, you know, whether you were bullied or whether that you were told you did something wrong, you slowly start to chip away at the awesome block. And you start to believe other people, you know? So at the end of the day, I would tell myself, believe in yourself, believe that you are awesome.
How is it being sober in the industry that you're in?
It's a really good question. Hollywood, you know, Hollywood is the place where it's like, oh, let's grab work drinks afterwards. The word for when we wrap a show is called a martini. Like that's martini, because you got to toast and get drunk and whatnot. So it's interesting being sober in the entertainment industry because it does revolve around alcohol. It doesn't revolve around alcohol. Alcohol is definitely a big part of the entertainment industry. How's that? And I think that it has been, once again, an opportunity for me to find out new ways of how I can be active and present, socially present in the entertainment industry without having to turn to my habitual ways of getting really drunk with colleagues and coworkers and talking about show ideas. You know, so this is it's fun because it does feel like I have a new set of legs and I'm like learning how to walk in it in Hollywood. So yeah, it's been an interesting experience.
And do you think that like non-alcoholic beer, wine, spirits could then fit in that industry?
Yeah, so I think it definitely can because of the fact that we're all different when it comes to recovery. You know, some people don't drink alcohol because they just don't like the taste of it. Some people don't drink alcohol because they like the taste, but they get weird allergic reactions to it. Some people don't drink alcohol because they feel like they are addicted to it and then they can't stop at one drink. So I think it depends where you fall in that spectrum in terms of why you should or don't want to drink. You know, I know people that are in the recovery community that would probably not want to risk anything. And I also know other people that don't mind having a drink and then they can actually manage that, you know? So I think that there's a good amount of people in between that would love non-alcoholic beverages. In fact, like I fully support it just because if you do have alcohol, like that is an addiction. Like you do become addicted to it. And then depending on where you're at in your life, if you're going through something negative, if you will, that can easily spiral. But at least with non-alcoholic beverages, you know, you're not putting yourself in a situation where that could potentially turn into a major addiction very quickly.
Totally.
Do you drink
Have you ever had
non-alcoholic beverages?
Say it again?
Do you drink any non-alcoholic beverages?
So you have to describe to me, you have to define, like, what is non-alcoholic beverages?
Well, isn't that the ongoing legal debate in this country?
It is. It really is. This is where you guys come in. Fill me, educate.
So with we can jump back on another Zoom call, but we have about 3 minutes left, so we'll get the question out and then. So the industry standard is pretty much anything less than 0.5% ABV, which some of them are so low that Tropicana orange juice has more alcohol in it than that drink.
As well, doesn't it?
What was that?
Crest toothpaste. Was it Crest
Yeah.
toothpaste, brother?
Crest toothpaste, like mouthwash was an issue a couple years ago. So any of those beverages that are labeled as beer, wine, or a specific spirit that is less than 0.5%, but as in non-alcoholic beverages, I don't mean Diet Coke
Water
and
or soda,
coffee and stuff
Right.
like that.
Because those are alcohol free. There's a
Yeah.
difference between alcohol free and non-alcoholic. Those don't go hand in hand.
Right. That's great. Before I chat, should we resume?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's reason.
What the hell did I ask? Have you ever had one?
I have had non-alcoholic beverages before I got sober. I've certainly had, those types of drinks before I got sober. I certainly haven't had it in my sobriety, and I've been 10 months sober, so I haven't had it.
Do you think it would trigger you? I guess you wouldn't know unless you have it. But
I wouldn't know because I haven't had it. Yeah. It's almost like I would need to talk to other people that have had way more years of sobriety than me versus my 10 months before I even consider it. But I do find it fascinating because, like I said, there's just a giant spectrum of people in recovery, and some people don't even consider themselves to be in recovery. Because like you, Tyler, you wouldn't consider yourself sober, but you just really love non-alcoholic beverages.
Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of drinking. I'm kind of a nut, so I'm just not a fan of it. But I don't mind a glass of wine or a beer every day.
And I have a lot of friends that, aren't big fans of drinking, but they don't mind having a glass of wine if they're at an event. But even so, they're not in love with the taste of that, But I feel like with non-alcoholic beverages around more so, there'd be a lot more happier people, I feel like. Just because it's all right, do you want wine or do you want water? There's no in between, There's a ton of people that would love that in between to be filled up.
And something that I've been thinking about, do you think it's easier for you to be sober now than it would be if you were more out and about with people and at parties? Do you think it's easier currently in your situation to be sober than it would if it was
because of the pandemic?
Yes.
Yeah, great question. So it's interesting because a lot of the triggers that I've had when it came to drinking was when I would be alone. And that applies to a lot of people in addiction, was that isolation or being away from people would lead to their drinking because drinking would make them feel not so alone. And then here you have a pandemic where the government has given you full permission to be stuck in your house by yourself alone. Where alcohol sales, I think, jumped up to 500%. And then, a lot of people, sadly, have relapsed, and it hasn't been a difficult thing for me because I really did change my mindset. I spent a lot of years of my life drinking in my backyard when I would come home from work and just getting work done and drinking wine. And now when I'm in my backyard, it's a totally different place. I have a meditation room there now. I can get work done by the pool. And I've figured out a way to adapt to the quarantine. And I think that that is a big factor as to why people relapse into their old behavior, is that they're not willing to adapt and embrace the change and actually sit with the discomfort. Because I don't want to say it's not as scary as you think, but I do want to say that it is worth actually doing it. Just spending, once again, that speck of your life to actually just face yourself, deal with yourself, just for a little bit compared to the rest of your life, which is years, and it's going to be a game changer. That's what I did.
It's hard to comment on that because it's just
so.
I'm just.
It's very profound and honestly not too out there. I feel like that's just basic,
everyone knows it.
Right.
I feel like that's what all these people who talk about this stuff. It's usually people just can't comprehend it because they're all they don't have any they're not right in here, and you kind of say these not basic things, but just the reality.
It's not groundbreaking. I think it's
right.
To be quite blunt, it's kind of common sense.
That's right. And what is so interesting about it is that it's such common sense that it's almost become cliche, and it's so cliche that people feel like they don't even need to do it anymore, because I used to feel that way, where I was like, I'm mindful, I practice gratitude, I'm grateful for my car, but that's not what it really entails. Like, it does take work when it comes to these very simplistic, subtle things. Like, even if you think of meditation, meditation just means being there and being still, right? So subtle, but yet it is the hardest thing for millions and millions of people to do, because we're used to wanting to do this and having to do that and thinking about 300 things at the same time. But when it comes to actually giving permission to like do nothing, people are like, whoa, I can't do that. And that's why it's called a practice, because I'm not a master at meditating, but I certainly like practicing it because I get the benefits of it. You know, I get a clear mind, and I come up with much better ideas when I have a clear mind. You know, when I don't come up with TV show ideas, when I'm miserable and stressed and feeling depressed, you know? So it really does, it's like a gym. People know that when you go to the gym, there's going to be pain involved, but it's good pain, right? And then you go to the gym, and then you take photos, you post about it, people buy like hot outfits, and then you talk to your friends about it, who probably also went to the gym over brunch, but no one's doing that when it comes to your mind. And everything starts with your mind. You know, there is no gym for the mind out there. And that was my mission, was to make it socially acceptable, to create a mental gym, if you will, in this space called Change Your Algorithm, where you can talk about it, where no one's going to say, look, when you go to the gym, no one's like, ew, you're taking care of your body. Oh, you know, but today, if you say, yeah, I actually saw my therapist, it's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? Is everything okay? Like, and then all of a sudden that person feels guilt and shame, and like, no, I didn't say anything, you know? So that's what I'm trying to create, is a cool, welcoming environment to take care of our minds, the same way that gyms are a cool, welcoming environment to take care of your bodies.
Yeah, it's like remove the stigma almost.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a lot of commonality with that. Ours
Yeah, exactly.
Non-alcoholic beverages, yours deals with the magnitude of mental health.
Right, exactly.
We're just taking on the stigmas of society.
Isn't it? It's strange that there's a stigma attached to everything.
And if there's a silver lining to any of this meaning the state of the world, is that we get to actually question the beliefs and the stigmas that have existed for years and years, you know, in our society as a whole. We get to actually investigate and go, wait, is this actually necessary? Is this accurate? Is this helping us? You know, because the mental health stigma is not helping us. If you look at the numbers, it's really bad math. 50 million Americans alone are struggling with their mental health. And if you talk to many of these Americans, a majority of them feel alone. Because when you're going through depression, you feel alone. You're having anxiety, you feel like you're the only one that's having anxiety. But I guarantee you, if more people talked about it, then those 50 million people wouldn't be feeling so alone. And so the same goes to non-alcoholic beverages. The stigma is that, like, oh no, not drinking's, you know, not cool, and like drinking's cool. But like, that's fine, but you're also associating drinking to spending time with friends. You're associating drinking with traveling and enjoying a vacation. You're associating drinking with having good conversations. It's not the drinking that you're actually enjoying, it's the actions that are surrounded by the drinking. And I get to still, you know, I've still been traveling a ton since I've been sober. I've still been hanging out with friends since I've been sober. So all these things that I loved, I get to look back and go, oh, it wasn't the drinking that was fun. It was those things that I was doing. And I had this stigma that alcohol equals fun, you know? And what I love about what you guys are doing is that it's the same experience minus the hangover and potential addiction, you know? So why not go that route?
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many days I've woken up that morning and been so thankful I don't have a hangover.
Yeah, right. Hangovers are the worst.
They just are, yeah. They're just the worst.
And it gets worse when you get older, too.
Is that
Tyler,
true, Chris?
if you open your mouth, I swear to God, I'm
That's
going to
true,
jump
Chris.
through this computer
I just
screen.
can't. I can't relate. You're about what probably like 9 years older than me, right? You're getting up there. About a decade.
Yeah.
This again. Look this again.
The running joke between the three of us is that I'm the ancient one, and so they just...
Hold on. Show me your slippers.
What?
You do
Show
have
me
those
your
slippers.
Get the slippers out.
They're Ugg slippers.
Joel, have a look at these slippers and tell us what
They're
you
the
think.
most comfortable slippers I have ever owned. They're Ugg like
Dad move.
topsiders.
Whoa.
Joel, how old would you say you have to be to wear them?
I'd say like 65, 60.
Exactly. I said an octogenarian, so...
Just kidding. Those do look really comfortable, though.
They are incredibly comfortable. They're topsider style.
if you're in your
and they
golden
are
years.
Uggs.
It's like a midlife crisis purchase.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm sure they keep your feet nice and warm, Chris.
They're great
you're
because
in
my
your golden
father
years.
never turns the heat on during the winter time. So so I don't get frostbite on my feet. I wear slippers.
So I guess to conclude this up, can you just tell us more about the Change Your Algorithm, what you see it, like the future of it, just more about that?
Absolutely. So Change Your Algorithm is, to rewind, when is this being released again? Because
Friday.
I don't know if I'm going to talk about Friday.
Friday.
Okay, cool. So Change Your Algorithm is a mental wellness program that I created that basically provides a ton of classes literally to anybody. And these classes include free mental wellness classes that have certified mental health therapists. And I was able to find a large team of mental health therapists that have volunteered their time to lead these classes because, let's face it, 30 million Americans are unemployed. So there's not a ton of people that are swimming in money, in our friend circles. So I wanted to make sure that I could provide a system or a program that lets people feel welcome whenever they're stressed out and they get to join a class at 3 p.m. and then they hear from other people that are also stressed out and then they get takeaways from a mental health professional. And that's what Change Your Algorithm is. And people can find the website on changealgorithm.com. Booking is super easy. You find a class, you book it, and then I'll see you in class.
Love it. Do you have any, I guess to conclude it, also, were you going to say something?
May I ask, what was Gordon Ramsay like?
What was what?
Gordon Ramsay like?
It's a great question.
Oh, he was awesome. It's always the people that come off the meanest on camera that are the nicest behind the scenes. Yeah, he's a true businessman, and it was so fun working on Hell's Kitchen. That was years ago, but yeah, that was one of my favorite shows.
Well, Ian, have you ever seen him on, I think he was on like Kids Bake Off or something?
Oh, the difference in how he speaks to
And
children
one of the
versus adults.
kids just like, they forgot something and they're just having this meltdown, and then Gordon Ramsay goes over and is the nicest, kindest, most gentle person. Then the next meme is him with the bread. It's like, what are you? An idiot sandwich.
You're an idiot sandwich. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And I'll end it with this, where and I'll use Gordon Ramsay as an example. That is exactly how our thoughts and feelings are. We have angry Gordon Ramsay side, and then we have the nice Gordon Ramsay side. You don't have to actually stick to one. You get to choose which one you get to attach yourself to, and I think that's a perfect example, is that sometimes we like to trap ourselves in a tiny box of identity that I am not going to be a successful person, or I'm not going to be able to achieve this. But honestly, you'll believe that and you'll make that you if you want it to be. But you got to understand that, you're not an idiot sandwich all the time. You can actually be a nice Gordon Ramsay if you choose. So take that.
I want to see that quote on Change Your Algorithm. I want to see an analogy.
Okay, sounds good. Just for you, Tyler.
I'm gonna come up with one of those 9-panel things of like, which Gordon Ramsay are you today?
Oh, I like that. Yeah, exactly.
Could be a meme with the bread. Are you this one today?
You guys should seriously do that.
But what's next in store for you in terms of Change Your Algorithm, as well as you personally? What are some of your goals going forward this year and even into next year?
Absolutely. So professionally, I'm still doing television shows, which I'm executive producing, lots of which are underway, which I'm really excited about. On a personal level, I actually have Change Your Algorithm falling under that because I get a lot of healing being a part of these classes as well. And so we've partnered up with Chegg, which is a digital education company from Silicon Valley, and they have 5.5 million subscribers. And so I'm fortunate enough to be partnered with them, and they're going to be providing Change Your Algorithm services to their student subscribers. And we are also doing a little show together, which is going to involve 75 short episodes, which are going to have everyday students just talking about their mental health, what they're going through, everything from bullying to stress to anxiety to racial issues and whatnot, all of the boxes. And then just figuring out ways to find solutions to what's going on with their minds. But most of all, understanding that the people aren't alone. Just by one person speaking up, exactly like what I did when I came out of the closet, just having one person speaking up on camera, telling their story, that can just go open the floodgates and help a lot of people. So that's what I'm doing on a personal level.
Love it.
That's awesome.
Chris, you want to conclude it? Come on. Let's hear it.
What?
Sorry, Mike. Did you guys hear anything I said? My computer was completely glitching. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I can hear you fine.
Dude, like I can see only half of my screen right now. Can someone just say something? Because I could.
So with that awkward transition into the conclusion.
Yeah,
what is going on?
Wow.
I don't know what my computer's doing.
Before Tyler's computer melts off his desk, I know the three of us really want to thank you for coming on today. This has been a fantastic conversation and powerful, and definitely I got some takeaways from this other than
absolutely.
Gordon Ramsay related.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, thank you very much for joining us, and episode will be out this coming Friday. We'll email you over a link, definitely. But other than that, have a wonderful week, and hope to see you on some episodes of Change Your Algorithm coming in the near future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chris. Thanks, Ian. Thanks,
Joel,
Tyler.
Joel, just before you go, may I take a quick photo for our Instagram story?
Say it again?
Just before you go, may I take a quick photo for our Instagram story?
Yeah, of course.
Thanks so much. And again, thanks for joining us.
Of
Really
course.
good episode. Cheers, Joel. Thanks so much, honestly.
Yeah,
I really
of course.
appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
Yeah. Not you, Tyler.
Wow, that was class, wasn't it? My God.
This dude, I don't even know what happened to my computer. It literally just blew up. It like turned blue/green, and I don't even know.
Yeah, I'm going for a piss too. But Jesus, that was class, wasn't it, Chris?
Yeah.
I honestly, I know we haven't even edited it yet, but I'd say that was about.